And I want to clarify that when I am calling these millennial days, I'm not saying that creation was a 7,000 year period or a 6,000 year period with a day of rest at the end. Creation days were literal morning and evening days. However, in the testimony of the heavens, time is different. And I believe that's why it says right there in Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, that these are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created. It says it right there in the beginning. This is something I read past many times, having no clue what it meant. But after looking into this, I'm almost 100% certain that's what it's referring to, the generations of the heavens and the earth. So you have literal days. The world was literally created in 6 days, with the seventh day being a day of rest. And it was the only day of those 6 days that was blessed. And so it's a significant day, that seventh day of rest, in terms of the chapter of our timeline when you look at the generations of the earth. And so I want to call each of these 1,000-year periods a millennial day to make it simple. So millennial day, I'm referring to these 1,000-year periods that we have throughout time that show us where we are now. And to go back to that prophecy in Hosea, I know we're jumping around a lot, but to go back to that prophecy in Hosea, you have that first day being 1,000 years, and it's not until the fourth millennial day that we have this prophecy in Hosea. So why is he talking about a third day? Well, this prophecy was given before Yeshua arrives and resurrects. And so the people of that time had no clue that the calendars were going to change and that it was going to start over, giving us a new first day in terms of how we're measuring 1,000-year periods. So it's fascinating, the foreknowledge from that prophecy to say that, and the only way for it to be fulfilled is for those days to start over. And so the fifth day is now the new first day. And so that changes things, because he said in the second day is when we're going to be revived, or after 2 days, he will revive us. And in the third day, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. And so you have this new third day, which is also the seventh day. So don't let that be confusing. This is something that a lot of people will get lost on when you start having a third day and a seventh day overlapping. Keep it simple. It's still the seventh day. The seventh day doesn't change. A lot of people, when I talk about this, and I've talked about it before, said, so you're saying the Sabbath is no longer the Sabbath? It's like on a Tuesday or a month? No, I'm not saying anything like that. But as far as this prophecy goes, the new third day is the seventh day. It's the same thing, okay? But we are approaching that third day, and there's some things in the Word that are mind-blowing when you start seeing the parallels to all of this. When we look at the first 3 days of creation, the events that happened, and compare them to the new first, second, and third millennial days. And so the fifth millennium, sixth millennium, and the seventh is something that really makes this come alive. But you have to understand what the waters represent in prophecy and compare that to what we have here. Because in Revelation, when you have a vision that's showing us what's going to happen in the future, we're told that the waters in the vision represented peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Well, with that understanding of what the waters represent, I'm not saying this didn't really happen in Genesis with his spirit moving over the waters, but when you look at that, his spirit moving upon the face of the waters and him creating light, separating it from darkness, what happened in that fifth millennial day? You have his spirit moving upon the peoples, multitudes, languages, and literal tongues. That's something that happened. People were speaking different languages, and this separated us from darkness. This outpouring of the Spirit gave us a chance to really be set apart in a brand new way. And then that second day, he made the firmament. It divided the waters. And you see the second day, the people are being divided. We have tens of thousands of religions springing up, so much division taking place. In that third day, what happened to the waters? This is where it gets cool. Those waters were gathered together, or as God says, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place. And this dry land appearing is going to be the millennial kingdom that's appearing. How awesome is that? Those are some really cool parallels, and I feel they give us a roadmap that shows us where we are headed in time, as well as where we're at in time, or pretty close to it. I know there's some deceptions out there. Calendars have changed. Everyone's debating calendars right now, but this stuff is fascinating and just not at random. I would say at random, but several months ago, maybe even a year ago, I found a video that was looking at where we are in time based on the calculations of an old Bible from the 1800s. And so I looked at it and I gave the numbers, of course, to my wife, who's like a mathematician. She's a math teacher. She's really smart. And I said, where does this put us at right now? Because this Bible from 1814 said that the world was 5,788 years, 6 months, and 10 days old at that time in 1814. And so, how old does that make the earth now? Well, she did the math, and if these dates are correct, it's 5,997 years since creation, according to this Bible. Not saying it's correct, just that if it's close, if they were right back then, if they had, better ways of calculating this than we do now, that's crazy. Like that is, we are a couple years away, 2.5 years, because I don't know the exact date. All I know is it was 1814. And so it could have been 1814 right before 1815, or it could have been the very start of 1814. I don't know. I'd have to actually have that particular Bible and see if it gave a date. All I have is a screenshot from a video, so it's kind of blurry. But that is something to think about and understand that that's right next to that new millennial day. And I feel that there's a reason the Spirit's moving people to look into this. We need to understand it, and we need to be ready for that new third day. And so, how can we be ready for that new third day? That's what matters. Knowing where we are is not going to change anything if we don't change and get people ready for what's to come. Even if it's 100 years from now, or, like in the Messiah's time, a couple thousand years away, there was an urgency. We need to live with that same urgency. We need to be ready and getting people ready. And so, what does that mean? Well, this takes us to some verses that I want to share that are significant into actually where we are now. And it comes from 2 Timothy, where it says, keep away from godless babbling, from those who engage in it will only become more ungodly, and their teaching will eat away at people like gangrene. Hymenaeus and Philetus are among these. They have missed the mark as far as the truth is concerned by saying that our resurrection has already taken place. This is something that people are saying now. The resurrection's already happened. We're in the little season. So that's fascinating to me that even back then they were saying that we've all missed out on the resurrection and people were being led astray. And, I'm saying this out of kindness to those of you who are falling for that or, believing that or even teaching that, to really pray about this and ask the Father, are we really in the little season? Show me the truth and use things like this to guide me. His word is a roadmap. He's been dropping clues as to where we are and telling us how to live. And so that's why it tells us to keep away from those godless babblings. And so after it talks about these people who are telling others that the resurrection is taking place, it says they are overturning some people's faith. Nevertheless, God's firm foundation stands stamped with these words: the Lord knows his own, and let everyone who claims he belongs to the Lord stand apart from wrongdoing. That was 2 Timothy, powerful words. But to get back on track as to how to be prepared for the third day, That's something that's important, and it's something that is not easy. And when you try your best to get ready, the world is not going to be happy about it. We have been conditioned and programmed our entire lives to live a certain way, and that way is not the exact same way that we're instructed to walk. And we are instructed to walk in a certain way, and it's following the steps of the Messiah. Or like it says in 1 John, he that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked. And that begs the question, which steps do we avoid? Because I hear a lot of different opinions on how we're supposed to walk. A lot of people say, avoid the steps where he's keeping the law because we're not supposed to do that. And I was one of those people that used to believe that way. However, if I avoid those steps and he always kept the law, how many footprints am I really stepping in? If he prayed often and we're not doing that, we're missing one of his footsteps. He was persecuted. He kept the Sabbath. He ate clean foods. He walked in the Spirit. There were miracles happening around him because of the authority he was using, the same authority that we have. And he preached the gospel of the kingdom. He did all these things, and we're told that this is a narrow path. And it's a narrow path because nearly half the world is just focused on having faith, and the other half is just focused on keeping the commandments. You have two halves, nearly, and a small percent on that narrow path are the ones that the dragon will make war with, and it's those that keep the commandments and, there's an and here, have the testimony of Jesus Christ. There's both. And I know people get angry on both sides. You get a lot of hate when you start talking about this. There's a growing number of people who are understanding it's about both, and it's a narrow path for a reason, because it's easy, like we've seen with the Pharisees, to make the commandments and just the law itself its own little idol, to where it wasn't about love. It wasn't about loving the Most High with all their hearts. They fell into the traditions of men and really tainted the image of what it means to be righteous. And so you have that narrow path and the Messiah's own words, what he's going to tell us in the future, if we are one of those he tells to depart. You don't want to be one of those people, but if you are, this is what he's going to say. I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. We want to know what those people are practicing, and that word lawlessness means the utter disregard for God's law, his written and living word. So if you utterly disregard something, why would he want to write it on your heart? Why would the Most High say, I'm going to write this on your heart in the new covenant? Meanwhile, completely disregard it and hate it, which I remember I was one of those who really thought this was going back to old ways. However, my mind is starting to change on these things. The more I look into it, and the more I look at the entire word, because there's going to be a time, like it said, where the Messiah is going to say, depart from me, and we want people to be ready. So it's a narrow path for a reason, and so we want to be those that the dragon will make war with. And it's not just the commandment keepers, it's not just the ones that have faith, it's the ones that have both. It's not the easiest of tasks. I don't want to make it sound simple, but the main thing is we have an example, those footsteps to follow. And like it says in the book of Acts, unto you first, God having raised up his Son, Jesus, sent him to bless you in turning away every one of you from his iniquities. So the Most High didn't just raise up his Son and do all that for no reason. He sent him to bless you in turning away every one of you from your iniquities. That's a powerful statement. It's a powerful act. He's done more than just be that pillar of fire, parting water, all of those powerful miracles. He's done so much more. His long suffering is heartbreaking when you look at what we've done to him and his word and his truth. It's time to come back to the truth. And like the Messiah said, having both hands on the plow, don't look back. It's so easy to look back. This world has a lot of things out there, like the tree of knowledge and good and evil. Like, hey, look, it's good fruit. Okay, be mindful. that there's only one path. You don't have to look back. I think that keeps so much of us back. It kept me back when you keep 1 foot off that path, 1 foot sort of in the grave, as I like to call it. Both feet go in the same direction as your eyes, hands on the plow. It's a good analogy because that plow, what's the purpose of a plow? It's so you can plant seeds, right? And that's why a couple verses later, we're told that the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. And this was one of the first messages I ever spoke on back when I was a scared young teenager trying to preach. It was my one attempt back then. And so I realized I'm not a public speaker, and this is probably not for me, is to speak in public. But, times have changed and there's more of an urgency now. And so that harvest is still great. The laborers are still few. And some of you, we all have our own different tasks, our own different ways of laboring. Some of us are just planting seeds. You're out there all day sharing things with people, planting seeds. But it's the Most High that brings life with his breath of life to the harvest. And so I want to conclude with those words and thank all of you for going through this study with us. It is a powerful study showing us where we are with the generations of the heaven and of the earth, and what that most likely means when we look at the creation account in Genesis, when it says that these are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created.
If ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. If ye love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another Comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him. But ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. He that hath my commandments, and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me. And he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him. If ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments, and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. They were gathered together. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, and saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him. He that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked. By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God, and the faith of Jesus. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And behold, one came and said unto him, Good Master, what good thing shall I do, that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments.